But as you rightly put it, the majority of South Africans actually experience a 94% failure rate when it comes to retirement, right? So if only 6% of people can retire properly, it means that the other 94% are actually failing.
Yeah.
We often think that the income that we're making now will continue to make. But the reality of the situation is that nothing is a given. Anything can happen. The economy changes. People lose jobs. Unless you win the lottery or you're some trust fund baby that's going to inherit a lot of money, the only way to build wealth is to actually spend less than what you earn. I think we need to reflect and say, what is the kind of person I want to be? And how do I want my wealth to work for me? And to be honest with you, all you need to do is just start.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of In the Makey. My name is Joshua. I'm with Nigel. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about retirement. So there's a stat that says only 6% of people retire comfortably, which means the other 94% either struggle or they never stop working. So here's the real question. If you were to stop working today, would your money keep working for you, or will you slowly watch your savings disappear, eaten by inflation, expenses, even time, man? You know, so today we're sitting with a financial planner and we're gonna be learning about how you can start planning better for your future so that your money outlives you and you do not outlive your money. So Mr. Cedric, having said that all, welcome to the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's an exciting topic.
Yeah.
I know mostly when you talk retirement with younger people, it's like, I don't have to worry about this thing right now. But as you rightly put it, the majority of South Africans actually experience a 94% failure rate when it comes to retirement, right? So if only 6% of people can retire properly, it means that the other 94% are actually failing. And that's why it's important to actually talk about it early on, regardless of how old you are. It's actually quite important to talk about retirement and at least know where you stand as soon as possible, and not leave it until too late. Because if you find out the day you are retiring that you don't have enough, it's too late, bro. It's too late.
So would you say it's something that we should be concerned about, like, as early as possible?
100%, yeah. If you can answer that question, am I saving enough as early as possible, then you don't have to worry about it. And you only really have to ask yourself that question once a year when you look at your retirement plan again. And these days, there's so many tools that are available where you can input how much you're currently contributing or how much you want to contribute or can afford to contribute, how much you have, and when you're going to retire. And these tools can actually tell you whether or not you're on the right track, how much you're missing out on, how much you should contribute extra. So we have no excuse to at least find out the answer about whether or not we're actually contributing enough. And I know most people talk about, I want my money to work for me and things like that. If you don't give it time, it can't work for you, especially with retirement. If you give it as much time as possible, you're more likely to actually have something saved up for retirement than someone who leaves it till too late.
So as two 20-year-olds who barely make any funds, but we're doing our best, what advice would you, or where would you, what advice would you give to us? Where should where can we start?
I think the important thing is you should start. So I think before I talk about where, the important thing is that you should start. Again, I find with younger people, is you're waiting to make a significant amount of money to do something. I've been privileged, maybe call it lucky or unlucky enough to work with a lottery winner. And what you realize, especially with lottery winners, is by the time the money comes, they're not ready for it. And so in the same way, if you think that by making a certain amount of money, you're going to start certain financial behaviors, you are going to be very disappointed. And so I want to premise that because I want to say to a lot of younger people that maybe are starting out in their financial careers is you should start. Where should you start? Well, you should start with how much you can place outside of your budget to actually save towards retirement. So you should have a look at your budget, understand where your money is going and how much you can actually afford. For some people, that's only 500 Rand a month. That's a start. That's something. You are giving that 500 Rand as much time as possible to actually grow and work for you. So start somewhere, but where you should start is by looking at your budget and looking at what you can afford. The budget is actually the foundation of wealth building.
Okay.
Because it helps you understand where your money is going.
Sure.
At the moment, could you, if I just asked you, how much of your money goes towards fast food? How much of your money goes towards data? How much of your money goes towards transport? Do you know the answer to that? For the majority of people, they don't, because they don't have a budget. And so if you don't have a budget, you won't know how much you can actually afford to put away for retirement. So that's where you start. You start with actually figuring out how much you can put away. And then you can actually figure out, well, how much is that money likely going to be when I retire one day? And am I happy with that picture? And if you're unhappy with that picture, then you say, look, yes, I can only afford so much, but I should plan to increase this contribution in future, because if I just carry on with this amount, it's not going to get me to where I want to be.
Okay.
And that's an exercise that you can do with a financial planner. Sit down with them, but at least you will be empowered with the questions to ask, and you will be able to provide your budget and say, I know how much I can afford. I want to know how much this is actually going to mean I retire on one day, and then work in reverse.
So how do we get out of the mindset of I live once? Because that's what traps many of us as younger people. That we like, if I don't get this polo today, and he has the polo, and it's like I'm doing nothing.
100%, yeah. We are all running our own race, and I think the sooner you accept that, the better it's going to be for you financially. We're all running our own race. We're not trying to run a similar race to somebody else, right? And at the core of it, really, it's about understanding yourself and understanding what's important to you.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, and especially in this day and age where the pressure is real. Social media, we already see that someone has bought a car before you even meet them. You already know that they've bought a car, right? And they've made a big hoo-ha about it, and there's content and things like that. But the reality is that you as a person need to know yourself. What is important to you? We don't all come from the same backgrounds. And so even though Josh has bought a polo, I understand that in my situation, I've got maybe siblings that aren't working yet. I need to help out back at home. So the polo is not something that is realistic for me right now. And so I should focus on my priorities and ensure that I stay in my own lane and plan for my own lane. And so, yes, you only live once, but you may live once until you're 80 years old. Are you going to be able to live then? You're going to live once. You want to be able to do YOLO stuff when you're 82, right? You don't want to do YOLO stuff now only. And so think about yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Are you going to be able to YOLO then? The only way you're going to be able to YOLO at that point in time is if you take what you're earning at the moment and actually invest some of that and put some of that away so that you're able to do it at a later stage. One of the things that the pandemic has shown us is that nothing is certain, especially when it comes to things like employment, right? And so we often think that the income that we're making now will continue to make. But the reality of the situation is that nothing is a given. Anything can happen. The economy changes. People lose jobs. So it's important that whatever you're making now, there's a little bit of that you're saving for the future. Because I just want to say unequivocally, unless you win the lottery or you're some trust fund baby that's going to inherit a lot of money, the only way to build wealth is to actually spend less than what you earn. So some of that spending, some of that money that you earn actually needs to go towards a future date, something that's going to happen in future. The only way to build wealth is to spend less than what you earn.
But what does that look like? Is it 90%, 10%,
That's 3%? Yeah, that's a great question. And what you're touching on is, do I live beyond my means? Do I live at my means? Or do I live below my means? Right? Living below your means is a sure way of being able to build wealth. And so even though I earn 100% of what I earn, I want to live a lifestyle maybe that only represents 75% of that. You may think that that's quite a big sacrifice, but you'll be surprised how quickly you adapt. And so if I earn 10 grand, my lifestyle, I'm going to make sure that I fit my lifestyle into 7,500. The other 2,500, I'm going to put away for retirement, put away for emergencies, and put away for other goals. And when you get used to living below your means, even when you start making more money, you know that I only really utilize 75% of every rand that I get towards my lifestyle. And the other 25% is always going to go towards savings and investments. And I just want to share a very quick story with you. That is something that I experienced personally. I started to save up money for an emergency fund very early on in my career. And this was something that my partner at the time really just inspired me to do. She was like, let's just put money away. And I kept saying to her, but for what? Shouldn't there be something that we're saving towards? And she said, no, let's just put money away and let's wait 2-3 years and see, what that does for us. Fast forward 13 years since I started my career. I'm at a stage where I've saved up enough money, not in my retirement savings, not in my emergency savings, but just discretionary money that's sitting aside where I can loan money from myself for certain things. And what are some of the things I've been able to do with that? I can't tell you when the last time I had a cell phone contract was. And so what I usually do is when I am in need of a new device is that I borrow the money from my discretionary fund to buy the device cash, so that I don't get locked into some 36-month contract for a device that 36 months from now is not going to be worth the premium that I'm paying, right? These cell phone providers like vehicle manufacturers, they lock you into a price today that you'll be paying for even 36 months from now. So for me, I'm able to buy a device today using cash, and then I pay myself back. So I have a contractual obligation with myself to pay myself back. And I respect that discretionary fund. What I mean by that is if a new iPhone costs me, what is it today? Like what, 20, 25 grand?
Yeah, let's say something like that.
Sure. I borrow that money from myself. So I take it out of my discretionary fund and I purchase that device cash. Ordinarily, if I was to take out a contract, maybe it would have cost me 1,000 Rand a month. Instead of paying someone else that 1,000 Rand a month, I paid back into the discretionary fund. The cell phone contract is with me.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
That's smart, yeah.
And I put that money back, I plow that money back. And guess what? If it's 25,000 Rand and I pay 1,000 Rand back, 25 months from now, I've paid myself back. I've paid the device off.
Yes.
Right? And then I've replenished that money.
Sure.
And going forward, whenever I need something that I would have otherwise have gone to go borrow or take out a contract for, I can buy those things cash and have a contract with myself to pay that money back. And I'm talking, again, things like devices, cell phones, cameras, laptops. But I want to get to a point where I can do that with vehicles as well. And so that's hopefully going to come later in life.
Sure.
But that's the idea of you can only get there if you live below your means and you spend less than what you earn and take the rest and actually put it away.
But one might argue that your money is exposed to inflation, and that every minute that you're putting it away, it's slowly losing value with time, it's depreciating. Yeah.
Sure.
So what do you do with that? Like, do you put your money in an investment where it's growing as you are paying back yourself? Do you put it in an investment where it's growing gradually, or you just put it under the pillow?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, because I used to do that. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and these days, what under the pillow means is you're just putting the money in a bank account.
Yeah, just putting in the bank.
Yeah, you might as well just put it in the pillow. In fact, it's going to be better under the pillow because the bank's not charging you any fee.
Sure.
So
exactly,
it's a bad idea to put savings or investments in a bank account, a normal bank account. There are so many products out there that allow you to put money into something that is at the very least, interest bearing, right? So I'll use an example. If you have some money that you would have ordinarily just put in a bank account that maybe you're going to need 12 months from now, maybe you have very short savings horizon or investment horizon, you can put that money, instead of giving it to a bank where you earn a lousy 2 to 3% perhaps, and actually all of that interest maybe is taken away by fees, is you can put it into an interest-bearing unit trust portfolio where you're earning something closer to 6 or 7% from Rand 1. Okay. What most people actually don't know is with a lot of the banking products where you have a 32-month or 60-month notice, for example, the banks will only give you a competitive interest rate if, one, you give them a larger amount of money. So the larger the sum of money you give them, the more interest that you're likely to earn from them. But two, the longer you leave it with them also, the higher the interest rate they'll give you. So if you lock your money away for 5 years and you give them a huge lump sum, right, at the beginning of that 5-year period, you are likely to secure a higher interest rate. But what if you're like you and me? You have $500 a month, 1,000 Rand a month that you want to put away, but you will still want to have a competitive interest rate. An interest-bearing unit trust portfolio gives you a competitive interest rate, as competitive as what the bank would give someone who gave them 100,000 Rand and lock it away for 5 years. They would give you as competitive a rate as that. They won't lock you in. In a normal unit trust account with an interest-bearing unit trust portfolio, you have similar access to what you do if you just had left that money in a savings account. Okay, you probably have about 5 days notice. You give them 5 days notice, you can withdraw your money and the interest at any point in time. So you're not giving away access to your money by putting it in that portfolio. But secondly, you're earning a high interest rate regardless of how much you put in there. So me with my R1,000,000 in that same portfolio earns the same rate of interest as you with your R1,000. We both earn 7%, right? But 7% of $1,000,000 obviously is more than 7% of 1,000. Sure. And so how you combat against inflation eating away at the purchasing power of your money is to put it into an investment that is going to give you a better return than what inflation is. And so if inflation is 3.5%, which it is right now, if you put your money in an interest-bearing account that gives you 6%, you are already beating inflation by 2.5% per annum.
Per annum was when I was
per annum.
Okay.
Going forward into the future, right? And so I would argue that having your money invested in something like an interest-bearing portfolio is actually going to protect you against inflation. Again, Josh, your income that you are earning from whatever you are doing, right? You don't always know if that income is going to be protected against inflation going forward, because you don't know what your increases are going to be, if your clients are going to grant you increases in future. But whatever you save, you are guaranteed, if you put it into an investment portfolio that has a history of giving you inflation-beating returns, that money is definitely going to outgrow what inflation is. So you win if you do that.
Sure.
So back on the budget.
Yes.
Is a budget something written, or is it something just on my mind? I know that 500 is for transport, 1,000 is for this, 10,000 for that, and so on and so forth.
Sure. Let me answer you in this way. When you make big plans, and you want those plans to be successful, do they live in your head? No, they don't. Any big or important plan you're going to write down, right? And the thing about a budget is that it's a plan. And I think it was Benjamin Franklin, the old American president who's now deceased, who once said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. And with a budget, it's exactly the same thing. If that plan exists in your head, I mean, we go through so many thoughts and things in a day that anything that lives in your head, come on, is not going to be very possible for you to implement, right? And so your budget needs to exist in writing, whether it's in an Excel spreadsheet saved on your device or a note that is on your phone or a piece of paper that lives in your diary. But you actually need to go through the exercise of saying, what is my income? Put that somewhere. What are my expenses? What do I spend on transport? What do I spend on data? What do I spend on takeaways? And the easiest way to do that is to first do an exercise where you're looking at what you've done in the past. So today, I download my bank statement and I look at what I'm spending money on. How much am I spending on transport? How much am I spending on data? And then I say to myself, are those figures realistic? Is that how much I want to spend on those things? And maybe there's certain things you want to spend less on. Maybe you look at your bank statement and say, I spend too much money on McDonald's. I need to reduce how much I spend on my D's. Let me give myself a budget. But I'm going to give myself this budget and I'm going to operate within that budget. And so if it's $500 a month, if I exceed that $500 a month, I've broken my budget, right? I'm on my way to actually failing. So you do that, and then you say, these are the realistic amounts that I want to spend on these things, and then that becomes your budget. And then you live by that budget. That budget is telling you and telling your money where to go. If you don't have a budget, your money is telling you where to go. Your money is the one that is making the decisions on your behalf. So the budget is actually a very powerful tool. And as someone who can proudly say that I've made leaps and bounds in my own financial life, right? I've only been working for 13 years. I'm only 34 years old. But I'm at a place where I have financial freedom with regards to certain things. Like I talked about my discretionary fund. I could not have gotten there if I didn't have a budget, if I didn't understand where my money was going, and I didn't then plan to where I want my money to go. That's why it's so important to have this budget, and it can't live in your head.
So essentially what you're saying is if it lives in your head, then it's not big enough.
It's not big enough. Then it means that what you're trying to achieve actually is not important enough for you.
Sure.
If it's important, you'll write it down. You'll refer back to it, and you look at it on a monthly basis. Yeah.
But what if you're just good at memorizing, Because it happens that that 10,000,
Sure.
I know where it goes, but it's here. It's not written down, but it's to the T.
Again, I would beg to differ and argue against that because we're talking about real money and real figures here. And I think when you leave it to chance and you leave it to this thing being in your head, whereas we live in a data economy right now, you have data available to you to help you make better decisions, right? And so if the bank is already reporting on your income and expenses in an electronic way, in a way where you can go and download and see, why would you do something different to that and it only lives in your head, right? Use the data that you have available to you to enhance that decision making and enhance the way that you do things. So again, I would argue, regardless of how good you think your memory is and how good you think you operate in your mind, that you are leaving a lot of capability off the table if you just leave it to you being able to do it in your head. I think you still have it written down in black and white, whether on a spreadsheet or on a piece of paper, but it can't live in your head. How do you revise something that's in your head?
Yeah.
You revise it, okay. But anyway, it's cool. I get you.
Sure.
How do we set boundaries? Because as young folks, we have that thing that they call black tax, as some may say.
Yes, sure.
Even girlfriend tax.
And girlfriend tax. You've got allowances. You've got.
Yes.
I'll answer in two ways. One, is it a line item in your budget? Do you budget for it? Now, what I mean by that, because you're talking about boundaries, right?
But eventually you will budget for it.
Sure.
Because it's like, it has become an obligation
100%.
to you. So therefore, eventually you'd end up budgeting for it.
100%.
But are you meant to be giving that money?
You see, now you're asking a very different question. Okay, now, should you or shouldn't you? And I think that's a very personal, a deeply personal question. And it really is determined by whatever role you want to play and what your relationship is with your finances as with regards to things like black tax. I personally don't think black tax is a bad thing generally speaking, right? But you need to have certain boundaries. And so, for example, if you have a sibling that is unemployed and has finished school, but they don't have an income and they need certain needs met, right? And maybe you're the only one that is available to provide that financial assistance. Okay. Should you be doing it? Yes, I think you should be doing it. That is an obligation that you had. If the tables were turned, surely you'd appreciate some assistance. But being the one that is actually providing the assistance, you are now in control of how you show up with regards to how you help.
Okay.
It cannot be dictated to by somebody else. So the person in need can't dictate to you how you show up, how much you show up with, and determine what the expectations are with how you show up.
But I raised you.
Sure, you raised me, but you also raised me to be responsible. And the idea here is also that you want to get to a situation where you get people out of their situations. So I'll use the example with the sibling that's unemployed. Okay. A different way to meet a similar need is to say, Josh, little bro, you're unemployed at the moment, right? And maybe you are looking for work, but is there anything that you could do right now that could earn you a bit of income? And maybe Josh says, you know what, based on what I studied, I'm really good at things like email domains. I can maybe, help people out with setting up business email addresses and setting up websites and things like that. And I could build people to do that. And I say, cool, Josh, what do you need and how much does it cost? And Josh says, I need a laptop, I need data, I need this and that. And I can say, cool, I'm committing to empowering you to generate your own revenue. And so I want to get to a point where instead of me putting you in my budget as a line item on a monthly basis, how about I empower you so that you're no longer a line item in my budget and you can generate your own income. That comes with a lot of responsibility, right? It comes also with a lot of effort and time on your part as the person that's earning the income. It's incumbent on you to do that if you really want to deal with the root cause of that black tax. So rather empower people to get out of the situations that they're in by creating something that can generate them income. I'll use another example that is closer to home for me. So, for example, a grandmother who's living in the villages, who is a pensioner, you can't ask them the same question. Like, Gogo, what can you sell? And things like that. I mean, maybe they're not in a position to do that. But let's say I then decide I'm going to create a lump sum, a 10,000 Rand lump sum that is going to sit in a unit trust account that is interest bearing. And the interest that is generated by that particular portfolio on a monthly basis goes directly to Gogo. So now it's no longer incumbent on whether or not I've had a good or a bad month, and it's not a line item in my budget. I've actually set capital aside to take care of that obligation. And I can say to Gogo, it's going to be 600 Rand a month. That's really what I can help out with. But I know that it's coming from the interest being generated by this vehicle. So this capital is always going to be available to meet that need on a monthly basis. And when that need no longer exists, I still have the capital and I still have the interest that it generates. So you see how we're moving away from, there's black tax, is it wrong, is it right? How do I deal with it, to how do I own this situation? And then how do I help the people that are in need to get to a point where they can help themselves? And we can talk all day about the different ways you can do it depending on the situation. But the idea is to start thinking about it more deliberately, and then you showing up intentionally in terms of how you want to deal with something. And that helps you to set the boundary. I say, this is as far as I'm going to go. Beyond that, I won't. Right? And I remember having to have a very difficult conversation with someone who I sponsored to start a business so that they could then take care of themselves. And then when they asked for money in future, I said, well, where are the things that I purchased for you to start your business? And if they're still lying at home doing nothing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's incumbent on you, and it's your responsibility that you utilize the equipment I've given you to fish instead of me giving you a fish.
Sure. So I want to give us a commitment, me and Big Bro over here. And I wanted you to share with us the tools that we can start investing in to prepare for retirement.
Yes.
So what would be those tools for you?
100%. Number one, let's start with understanding where our money goes. So the first tool is a budget. Okay. I can give you a template, but actually it's quite easy. You just say, what is my income? What are my expenses? And what do I want my expenses to be with the income that I have? Okay. That then tells you how much you can afford to put away. Okay. Now, once you have that figure, the next thing you can do is say, if I put that figure into a tool, so there's a retirement calculator that a lot of platforms and a lot of financial institutions provide for free. You can literally type in on a search, retirement calculator, and you'll get one. 10X Investments has one, Momentum has one, Old Mutual has one, where they ask you, how old are you now? How much do you earn? How much are you putting away on a monthly basis? Right? And they can then give you a picture of what it's going to look like when you retire one day. And you can set a retirement age of either 55 or 65 or whatever retirement age you want to set. And they'll tell you the probability of approximately how much would you have based on how much you contribute at the time that you reach retirement. Okay. Now you have your retirement figure. Then ask yourself, is this enough? Am I going to be able to live with this amount of money when I retire one day? And if the answer is no, you have to go back and then change your budget and see if you can contribute more. So have the budget, know how much you can save towards retirement, and then input that into a calculator that tells you whether you're going to have a successful retirement or not. The nice thing about some of these calculators, the 10X Investments calculator specifically, is that it actually tells you what you can do. Either invest more aggressively or contribute more, or be realistic and say that you're going to retire later than what you would like. Okay. And so it's nice to get a tool that actually gives you alternative solutions if you have a specific problem. And then don't stop there. Now that you have that picture, implement. Actually go and say, either I want to speak to a financial planner, or I'm going to go to a financial institution and I'm going to actually sign up for a retirement annuity. So a retirement annuity account is the typical common vehicle that most people can use if they want to start saving for retirement on their own. So it's unlike if you are employed and you have a pension fund at work. No. If you want to do it on your own, you use a retirement annuity. And what a retirement annuity fund does is that it allows you to contribute on a monthly basis. Okay. A lot of institutions allow you to pause in the months where maybe it's a little bit rough and start again. And they give you online access to your retirement savings so you can see how it's growing. They give you feedback. They include calculators in there. And one of the biggest benefits that we didn't touch on about retirement is that, did you know that when you contribute towards retirement, you end up paying less tax?
Really?
Yes. So how that works is when you earn money, SARS looks at that money and says, this is taxable income, meaning you owe us a certain percentage of tax from whatever you are earning. But SARS wants to reward people for saving towards retirement. So what they then say is, whatever amount from your taxable income that you put towards retirement, we are not going to count that in the calculation of what taxable income is. Let me use an example. You earn 10,000 Rand. If you weren't saving for retirement, SARS taxes you on the full 10,000 Rand according to the income tax tables. Okay. So you take your 10,000, apply to the income tax tables, that's the tax you're going to pay.
Okay.
But if of the 10,000 Rand, you saved 1,000 Rand towards retirement, SARS at the end of the tax year says, we should have only taxed you on 9,000 Rand a month because we don't want to tax you on the other 1,000 that you utilized to save towards retirement. Okay. So you end up paying tax only on 9,000 and not on the full 10,000. You're paying less tax.
So does that happen is it automatic or is it something that you should go and claim towards the end of the year?
Yeah. So when you file your tax return every year, usually we file our tax returns around August, September. When you file your tax return, SARS should have this information already, but you will get a contribution certificate from your financial institution. And then when you do your e-filing, you will then say, of the income that I earned in the year, this is how much I actually saved towards retirement. And then what SARS does is that they'll issue you a refund. Now imagine getting money back from SARS when you didn't expect it, right?
Yeah.
And whether you utilize that money to put back into your retirement, which is going to lead to another tax saving later, or you just YOLO that money and you do whatever you want to do with that money, it's up to you. But imagine getting a refund back from SARS. So it won't happen month to month. It will happen at the end of the tax year when you file your tax return that SARS does the calculation again and then says, this is how much we're going to give you back because you paid more tax than what you should have.
Okay.
So, okay. If you spoke about e-filing, you spoke about what tax year?
The tax year, the end of the tax year.
So is it something that I have to be documenting throughout every month?
You don't have to.
I don't have to.
You don't have to. So the nice thing about our financial institutions is that they report a lot of data to SARS. Okay. And if you're earning an income from a source that also reports that income to SARS, then SARS has all the information already. All that's going to happen is that they'll either send you an SMS and say, FYI, we are going to do an auto assessment, and then you just get the result, and then you'll just see the money being paid to you. So you do nothing. Right? Okay. But obviously, if you get income from a source that does not report that money to SARS, you then physically have to say to SARS, I earned this amount of money over the last 12 months. This is how much I saved towards retirement, and therefore please recalculate my tax. So it all depends on how you are earning your income. But if you already have a profile and your information is already being captured, you don't have to do anything. You just need to save for retirement and then wait for that refund at the end of the tax year.
Okay, say now I'm retiring at whatever age I decide.
Yes.
Do I get the full amount that I've been placing on the retirement annuity?
No, you don't, unless it's below a certain amount.
Okay.
So if you were to retire 35 years from now and you've been saving money in a retirement annuity fund, for example, for all that time, how the rules currently work, and these rules change every now and then, every so few years, how the rules currently work is that a third of whatever you've saved, you can take in cash. So if you have 3 million saved up by the time you retire, 1 million of the 3 million, you can take that in cash. You can do whatever you want with that money. However, of that million, only the first 550,000 is tax-free. The other 450,000 will be taxed by SARS and you'll get the net amount after tax. So to answer your question, no, you can't take all of that money in cash. You can only take a third of that in cash. And depending on how much that third is, there may be some tax payable. And then you get the net of tax amount. With the other 2/3 that you were not allowed to take in cash, you are going to earn that on a monthly basis as an income. Because now you're no longer working, you no longer have an income. So this money is going to be your income on a monthly basis. Only if at retirement age, you've only saved up an amount that is below 247,500, can you take all of it in cash. But hopefully you don't only have that much. Hopefully you have way more than that. And if you have more than 247,500, then you have to only take a third in cash. The rest must pay you an income on a monthly basis.
I want to go back a little bit. Did you share the platforms? Because I'm still trying to figure out where I can actually put my money for retirement.
Sure. So there are a lot of platforms, and I'm agnostic with regards to platform. It really is dependent on what your preference is. It's dependent on what fees you want to pay. It's dependent on the kind of tools you want to have access to. Do you want online access? Do you not? Do you already have financial products with the institution, or do you not? But the popular financial institutions where you can save for retirement are institutions like 10X Investments, Okay, they're quite low cost, and their minimums are quite low as well. You can invest with companies like Allan Gray, for example. They've got really good service. Their online platform is really great, but their minimums are slightly higher. Their debit order minimum, I think, at the moment is about 5,000 a month. So it's for a completely different kind of group of people that can afford that. Okay. Then you have institutions like 91. 91 also allows you to save as little as 500 Rand a month. They also give you a really good platform, and you can choose from a variety of different investment portfolios. Then you also have institutions like Easy Equities, where Easy Equities allows you to also save for retirement, but the instruments that you can invest in that retirement annuity are vast. You can have shares in there, you can have ETFs in there, you can have different, gold ETFs and things like that. And it's all dependent on what you would like to do. And you can also add on other financial products under Easy Equities. And so you have Old Mutuals, Liberties, Sanlam, Momentum. There's so many financial institutions for you to choose from. It's all dependent on what resonates with you and what it is that they're giving you. Or if you go to a financial planner, they will actually do all the work for you and say, I've looked at all the financial institutions. Based on what you want to do, I recommend this financial institution.
Yeah, I think that's the best one.
That's the best way.
The financial planner.
Yeah. The financial planner route is the best way because you don't have to do the work yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the one that's kind of trying to figure out how much can I afford, how much is it going to cost me. A financial planner, an independent financial planner will help do all of that for you, and they'll walk the journey with you through until you retire one day.
Yeah, because people will tap into things they don't understand.
Exactly.
Sure.
I heard you speaking of shares and stocks. I'm like, there are many people who don't know what that is. And they put their money there. Then the next thing they're blaming Cedric is like, how?
Why did you not tell me?
Why did not
I
tell
think
me?
we need to be clear.
Yes.
This is not financial advice. Okay,
Yes.
this conversation
Yes.
does not constitute financial advice. We're just trying to give you some education here.
Yes.
And I think it's important to tell people that. You raise a good point. If you're sick, most times, if it's you don't know what's wrong with you, you're probably not going to self-diagnose. You're going to go to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And so similarly, with money, because there's so many options to choose from, and some of these things are confusing, it's actually in your best interest to speak to a financial planner. They can give you financial advice and allow you to make the right decisions.
But what if I earn 2,000 per month? Isn't a financial planner expensive for me?
Yeah.
Can I afford one?
Sure. And a lot of people think that financial advice is expensive. Just like doctors or any other professionals, this thing varies. Like there are people that are going to charge you, if you only earn 2,000 Rand a month, there's some financial planners that charge 2,000 Rand a month, right? But you also get some financial planners who will maybe say, I'm not going to charge you anything, but I will get my fee from the commission that I earn through the financial product that I recommend for you. And so you also get financial planners that say, my consultation is free, I'll speak to you for free, and then whatever we implement, the financial institution will pay me a commission based on how much you are contributing. So if after the conversation, if for me as your financial planner, I've said we're going to open up a retirement annuity with 10x investments, and I'm going to be appointed as your financial planner, I will get commission from your 500 Rand a month directly from the financial institution, and then you don't have to pay me directly. So that's also another way that you're able to do that. In the same way, like you've got medical aid, the medical aid pays your doctor, you don't have to pay out of your pocket. Similarly, a similar mechanism works in financial institutions where they pay the financial planner a commission and you don't have to pay the financial planner anything. The money comes from your premiums on a monthly basis. So it's not expensive. I think there's a financial planner out there for everyone, regardless of how much money you make.
Okay. If there was a challenge that you'd give us today, me and Nigel, what would it be? Yeah.
I would say, do you guys use calendars, by the way? Do you use your calendar, like your Outlook calendar and things like that, to set up appointments? And
Yes.
Yeah.
You do, right?
Yes.
Not too often, but yeah.
Yeah. Set yourself a reminder a month from now. And in that reminder, list all the things that you want to make sure that you should have done by then that you're going to follow up on.
Oh.
So put a reminder and say 30 days from now, I want to review my budget and make sure that I know where I stand. I want to review my retirement and maybe commit to starting retirement savings. And then between now and then, do the work. Actually do the work. Often these things are useful when you hit the nail while it's still hot.
Sure.
So today, actually, it's going to take you 15 minutes to log into your banking app, download a 30 day bank statement and just put pen to paper and say, this is how much I earned. These are all the things I spent money on. If I was to prepare a budget for when I get paid next on how I'm going to spend my money, this is how I want it to look. And then 30 days from now, check in with yourself. And so I've got in my calendar, every single month, I've got a line item and a calendar entry as a reminder for me to sit down and review my budget every single month. So I would say that's the challenge I would give you, is put it in your calendar. Make it a task that you're going to commit to on a monthly basis, to have a look at your calendar and just reconfigure and reflect on any financial decisions that you would have wanted to make or any financial conversations you would have wanted to have 30 days from now.
Would it be advisable for us to get a financial planner? Or
Yes.
can we use Easy Equities on our own?
So you can do both.
Okay.
So the nice thing about Easy Equities is that it's self-help. And the platform allows you to do a lot of these things yourself. There's a lot of self-help videos and things like that. But I would also say utilize a financial planner. So for example, with Easy Equities, you can start with like $50 and not even $50 a month, literally just $50.
Sure.
Start and buy some financial instruments and learn, right? If you make some mistakes, it's $50, man, right? And it's also unlikely that you can make devastating mistakes with 50 Rand. But in addition to that, also speak to a financial planner about something like retirement, about something like budgeting. So I would encourage you to do both. Don't just rely on your financial planner. Actually get involved. At the end of the day, this is your money,
Yeah.
right? You should have an investment in it and you should want to see something positive happen with your money. So if you want to one day be financially, free and be wealthy, you also have to play a part in actually taking part in those financial decisions. It's your money.
Do you think sometimes we have selective listening as people?
Of course we do. And sometimes I don't blame us. At times, the selective hearing and listening has to do with people feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
Okay.
Maybe you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, this is a lot of information.
Sure.
I don't know where to start. And so as a result, you just block it out. You don't want to listen. Sure. Or maybe we're talking about something that is actually quite
Or to the T.
deep, you know, and we're touching on something that maybe is difficult for you to reckon with and maybe just actually admit that this is something that you're struggling with. And so as a result, sometimes people have selective hearing from that perspective. But again, think about the person that you want to be.
Sure.
5 years from now, 10 years from now. That person is not just going to create themselves.
Yeah.
You need to put mechanisms in place and do certain things if you want to get there. And I'll use a running analogy because I'm a runner.
Okay.
I'm running Comrades this year for the first time in my life.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Now, Comrades this year is 83 kilometers.
83.
83. You run from Durban to Pietermaritzburg.
Shucks.
You run, eh?
Yeah.
On your 2 feet, you
Yeah,
run.
yeah, yeah.
That
You don't wake up and do Comrades. You don't just sign up for Comrades and then wait for Comrades and then start running.
Yeah.
You train.
True.
You train a lot. And it's your race. And the only thing that's going to determine whether you finish or not is if you've trained hard enough. And so I've had to put mechanisms in place and say, what am I doing on a Monday? What am I doing on a Tuesday? Am I doing my long runs on a Saturday? Am I eating right? And so think about your financial life and your financial future as something similar to that. You want to make sure that one day you get somewhere. You're not going to get there by osmosis. You actually have to put the work in. And so even if it feels intimidating, I think we need to reflect and say, what is the kind of person I want to be? And how do I want my wealth to work for me? I need to put in the work and I need to do something. And to be honest with you, all you need to do is just start. And start with something. Even if it's just starting with a budget, it's a start.
Yeah.
These things build on one another. So if you start with just a budget, which shouldn't be intimidating at all, because it's your money. You earn it, you spend it. So you can do a budget at the very least. If you start there, you can build on that budget by starting to save for retirement, by starting to introduce other financial products, by starting to look at things like risk. You know, what risks are you exposed to? Do you need insurance to cater for those risks? So this thing is a gradual process and these things build on one another. But in order for you to get to the place where you are retiring comfortably, you need to start with the basics of just having a budget. So just start.
I'm not sure if we should take this opportunity now or if we should create a separate episode on its own where we sit down with you and we actually have our budget.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually have our pay slip or whatever. or record, and then you take
100%.
us through, and so that we can also help the viewer out there see how they can actually do it.
I would love to do that. I'd love to do that. We can look at a mock, look at someone and say, hey, someone earns this much.
Sure.
This is what is on their bank statement. Where do they start with the budget? We can definitely have an episode to do that, to help people out there so that it becomes practical.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, Mr. Cedric, thank you so much for the valuable information.
The golden nuggets.
The golden nuggets. And thank you for being here today and
awesome, man. Thank you.
With us.
Thank you guys for having me, and I hope the information was useful.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to more episodes where we can actually start delving into the practicals of this thing. But hopefully we've at least given people a place to start.
Please share with us where can people find you?
100%. Thanks, man. So I am on socials. You can find me at Pila Wealth Management. So that's Pila Wealth Management on Instagram. You can also visit our website on www.pilawealth.co.za. I also have a LinkedIn page. You can look for me on LinkedIn, Pila Wealth Management, or you can look for me, Cedric Pila, and you can find me there. And you can get in touch with me. I promise I do respond.
Sure.
So just get in touch with me, DM me, send me a message, and I can definitely converse with you.
And then YouTube channel, do you have a YouTube channel where people
The YouTube channel is there. It's up and coming. I'm getting some assistance with my YouTube channel. But I do have a page. So if you look up Mabeta Cedric Pila, you'll find me on YouTube. But if you just Google me, you'll find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool stuff, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome, bro.
And we want to share the links down in the description, so make sure to check them out. And as for us, peace out.